In the heart of downtown Chicago, a man named Elijah Carter stepped into the sleek, modern branch of Sterling Bank. The glass doors slid open effortlessly, allowing the brisk morning air to flow in behind him. Sunlight poured through the expansive windows, casting a warm glow on the polished marble floors. The bank buzzed with activity. Employees in tailored suits moved purposefully behind the counters, while clients waited in orderly lines for their transactions. It was a well-oiled machine, just as Elijah had envisioned when he founded this institution. Today, however, he wasn't there in his capacity as CEO. No meetings, no press conferences, no high-stakes negotiations. Just a simple withdrawal of $15,000 from his personal account. Dressed in a crisp white shirt, dark jeans, and clean sneakers, Elijah blended into the crowd, his demeanor unassuming. As he approached the teller, he noticed a middle-aged white man at the counter, clad in a navy blazer. The teller smiled warmly as she counted out stacks of cash, handing over $25,000 without a hint of hesitation. Elijah's heart sank as he watched the man stroll out, unbothered and unquestioned. He exhaled slowly, feeling the familiar tension rise within him. He had experienced this before. But today he was determined to challenge the silent prejudice that seemed to permeate his own establishment. Keeping his expression neutral, he approached the teller's counter, where a woman named Sarah Thompson stood. Her nameplate gleamed under the fluorescent lights. "Good morning," Elijah said, offering a polite smile. Sarah barely glanced at him, her tone sharp and dismissive. "Fill this out," she said, sliding a clipboard toward him without a greeting. Elijah's brow furrowed as he took the clipboard, noting her mechanical demeanor. He filled out the standard withdrawal slip, then slid it back along with his driver's license. Sarah took one look at the amount and shoved the form back toward him. "We can't process this," she said curtly, folding her arms. Elijah frowned, his fingers brushing against the rejected form. "Excuse me? I just saw that man walk out with $25,000 in cash." He gestured toward the exit, where the previous customer was now disappearing into the bustling street. "You didn't hesitate with him." "That's different," Sarah replied, her lips pressing to a thin line. Elijah leaned slightly forward, his voice calm but firm. "How exactly is it different?" Sarah averted her gaze, her irritation palpable. Instead of answering, she glanced toward the glass-walled office in the back, where the branch manager, Rebecca Johnson, stood observing the interaction with a scrutinizing gaze. Elijah recognized that look. It was a silent approval that empowered Sarah's dismissive attitude. When their eyes met, Rebecca gave a slight nod and Sarah's posture straightened, her confidence bolstered. "I told you," Sarah said, her tone now colder. "We can't process this transaction." Elijah inhaled slowly, keeping his patience in check. "And I'm asking you why." Sarah hesitated, tapping her manicured nails against the counter. "It's just unusual," she said, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "A cash withdrawal this large is suspicious." The word hung in the air, heavy and deliberate. Elijah felt it settle in his chest, a familiar weight. He had navigated this unspoken game his entire life, maneuvering through the rules that dictated who was trusted and who was not. "You didn't seem suspicious when he did the exact same thing," he pointed out. His voice steadied a flicker as something crossed Sarah's face. A brief hesitation before she recovered. "I don't make the rules," she said, her tone defensive. Elijah let out a humorless chuckle. "You don't make the rules, but you sure know how to apply them selectively." Sarah bristled, her lips pressing into a tight line. "I need to get my manager," she said abruptly, turning on her heel and disappearing into the back office. Elijah remained at the counter, his fingers tapping idly against the cool surface. The atmosphere in the bank had shifted, the tension palpable. He could feel the eyes of other customers on him, their curiosity mixed with discomfort. A woman named Karen Mitchell, standing near the customer service desk, watched him with thinly veiled interest. Their eyes met briefly, and she offered a small, uncertain smile. Elijah didn't return it. He knew how this played out. People like Karen observed but rarely intervened. The door to back office swung open, and Rebecca emerged, her heels clicking sharply against the tile. She approached the counter, her expression unreadable. "Good morning, sir," she said, her voice polished and professional. "I understand you're trying to make a large withdrawal today." Elijah met her gaze evenly. I am. Unfortunately, we have certain security protocols in place for transactions of this size, Rebecca replied smoothly. Security protocols? Elijah echoed, tilting his head slightly. What does that mean for me? Rebecca offered a sympathetic expression, the kind that felt condescending. We need to verify some additional information before proceeding. Elijah exhaled through his nose. You mean my information? Because clearly, you didn't need to verify anything when that man withdrew more than I did. I can't speak to other customers' transactions, Rebecca said, her tone growing sharper. In this case, I'll need to confirm the source of these funds and verify your last deposit amount. Elijah felt his patience slip. You have my account number right in front of you. Look it up. Rebecca's expression hardened. I need you to cooperate, Mr. Carter. Cooperate? Elijah laughed, incredulous. I'm standing here giving you everything you need to do your job, and you're still finding reasons to refuse me. That's not protocol. That's profiling. The word hung in the air, and Elijah could see the impact it had on Rebecca and Sarah. The tension in the room thickened, and he could feel the weight of their scrutiny. Rebecca lifted a hand, making a small gesture toward the entrance. A figure stirred. Mark Thompson, the bank security guard, approached with neutral expression. I'm going to ask you to leave, Mark said flatly, his tone devoid of empathy. Elijah turned to face him, searching for any sign of awareness or doubt in Mark's eyes. He found none. I'm a customer at this bank, Elijah replied, his voice steady. I'm going to ask you again, Mark said, his voice firm. Step outside. Elijah inhaled deeply, feeling the heat of anger rising within him. He reached into his pocket, pulling out his phone and hitting record. You're refusing to process my withdrawal, he stated clearly. Despite having my identification, my account information, and despite processing an even larger withdrawal for a white customer right before me. Mark tensed, and Rebecca's jaw twitched. I'm going to ask you to leave again, Mark repeated, his voice less certain now. Elijah tightened his grip on his phone. And if I don't? Mark reached out, grabbing Elijah's forearm and yanking him backward. Elijah stumbled, his shoulder colliding with Mark's solid frame as he was spun toward the door. The impact sent a shock through him, but he refused to show it. The door swung open, and he was thrust outside into the cold morning air. As he regained his footing, he noticed his ID being tossed to the ground at his feet. The small plastic card hit the pavement with sharp clatter, igniting a fire of indignation within him. Before he could react, a shadow passed over him. Another security guard, Jamal Brooks, stepped forward, his expression unreadable. This place always does this, Jamal muttered, crouching down to retrieve Elijah's ID. He dusted it off with care before handing it back. Doesn't matter if you've got a degree or credentials. They don't want us here. Elijah took the ID, their fingers brushing briefly. Jamal's voice carried the weight of experience. They need us to make it look like they care. But they don't. Elijah nodded, understanding the unspoken truth. He dialed his phone, and after a few rings, a crisp voice answered. David Carter. I need you at the Chicago branch now, Elijah said, his voice steady. On my way, David replied. As Elijah waited, he could see the bank continuing its operations inside, oblivious to the storm brewing outside. Finally, a sleek black car pulled up, and David stepped out, his presence commanding attention. He approached Elijah without hesitation, his expression tightening as he took in the situation. Mark, David said, his tone cold. What happened here? Elijah watched as David confronted Rebecca and Sarah, his authority slicing through the tension like a knife. You just threw my CEO out of his own bank, he stated, his voice steady. Rebecca stammered, tried to regain her composure. There seems to be a misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding, David interrupted. Did you even check his account before deciding he wasn't qualified to access his own money? Rebecca hesitated, and the silence that followed was deafening. Yes or no? David pressed. Rebecca's silence spoke volumes. You're done here, David declared, his voice firm. Elijah felt a surge of satisfaction as he watched Rebecca's expression falter. Effective immediately, David continued. And if I find out this kind of treatment has happened to other customers, you'll answer for it legally. The weight of David's words settled over the room, and Elijah stepped forward, reclaiming his place at the counter. This time, no one dared to argue as the stacks of cash were counted out and placed in front of him. It was his money, and no one could question that. As he took the cash, he glanced at Jamal, who was still standing nearby, looking slightly dazed. Elijah slid one of the stacks toward him. "Take the day off," he said. Jamal hesitated, but then accepted the cash, gratitude shining in his eyes. Elijah turned to Rebecca one last time. "You should have checked my ID," he said, then walked out, leaving the chaos behind him. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.